I found the babysitting job through a neighborhood Facebook group. The post was short, mentioning one night only, excellent pay, and a quiet baby. When I commented asking for details, the parents messaged me back almost immediately, as if they had been waiting. I had been desperate for work, but something about the quickness of the response made me feel uneasy. Although, I brushed it off and accepted it. The drive there was longer than expected. The house sat deep in the woods. Once I pulled into the driveway, I sat in the car for a moment, just admiring the house. It was enormous, the kind of place that felt untouchable, even though people lived there. The parents were polite and well-dressed, clearly wealthy, though not flashy about it. The house itself was modern and spotless, every surface clean to the point where I could see my reflection. When the mother mentioned the cameras, she didn't gesture towards them directly. She simply said they were everywhere, and it made them feel better knowing that they could check in if they wanted. The father added that most babysitters found it reassuring. He smiled when he said this, but his eyes never quite met mine. They left shortly after, the car disappearing down the driveway, the house settling into a silence that felt deeper than it should have. I stood in the entryway for a moment after they left, listening. The house did not sound empty the way I expected it to. There were soft, irregular noises, faint shifts and distant creaks, that did not follow the usual rhythm of a settling house. I told myself it was the size of the place, the way sound carried in big open rooms, but I still found myself turning slowly, checking hallways that led nowhere, feeling embarrassed by how much of a coward I was being. I checked on the baby first. She slept perfectly with slow, steady breathing. I stayed longer than I needed to, watching her chest rise and fall, counting the seconds between breaths. At some point, I realized I had done the math in my head more than once, as if I was afraid the pattern would change if I stopped paying attention. When she shifted in her sleep, letting out a small sound, my heart jumped so hard it hurt. I rested my hand on the crib rail until it stopped shaking, suddenly very aware that as long as she was asleep, nothing felt truly wrong yet. That calmed me for a moment. I turned on a lamp in the living room and sat on the couch, trying to figure out how I would pass the time until the parents returned. The first call came minutes later. The caller ID was unknown. I picked it up thinking the parents were just checking in on us. Then I heard a man's voice, calm, somewhat creepy.
First time here.
I froze. I told myself it was a prank and quickly hung up. My hands trembled as I paced around the room. And the phone rang again. I picked it up.
You turned on the lamp.
The voice said.
It makes the room feel smaller.
I demanded to know who it was. The voice did not answer, only observed.
You walk quietly, careful steps, like you already know something is watching.
I backed into the hallway, my stomach twisting. How do you know that? I asked. Silence, then a chuckle.
I am just watching for now.
I noticed the first camera then, a tiny black lens tucked into the corner of the ceiling. Once I saw it, I began to see dozens, hiding in plain sight. Every major room, every hallway. The voice called from my phone.
So you see me now.
My hand shook. I grabbed the first camera, yanking it down, smashing it against the floor with my foot. I tore the next one down, then another. I couldn't stop. Every shadow seemed to hide more cameras. I climbed on chairs, pulled from shelves, smashed everything I could reach. I went to the garage and found a ladder and a hammer. The house was echoing with the destruction of cameras. The voice continued from my forgotten phone.
You missed one.
My heart leapt. Slowly, I saw the small lens above the doorway frame. I destroyed it too. Pounding until my arms ached and my knuckles bled. Hours passed. I stopped picking up the calls, but he left voicemails, whispering commentary, observations, and reminders.
I am surprised the baby slept through that ruckus. I can still see you.
After the cameras were gone, the house did not feel safer. It felt exposed. I caught myself checking reflective surfaces without thinking. The dark screen of the television, the stainless steel refrigerator door. Every time, I expected to see something just behind me, close enough that turning around would be too late. I started avoiding rooms with mirrors altogether. In the bathroom, I kept my eyes on the sink. I washed my hands too many times, not because they were dirty, but because I needed an excuse to stay there, to listen. For a while, nothing happened. No calls, no movement. The house felt almost normal again. I told myself I had scared whoever it was away. I even laughed once, quietly, at how ridiculous I must have looked. But then came the footsteps, moving through the rooms. I quickly grabbed the baby and hid in the closet beneath the stairs, pressing my body against the back wall. Through the shutters, shadows passed, tall and formless. I kept my phone on silent. Time stopped meaning anything in that closet. My arms ached from holding the baby, and I could feel her body warmth through my clothes, grounding me and terrifying me at the same time. I realized that I was no longer waiting for the parents to come home. I was waiting for something else to happen first. The house had gone too still, as if it were listening along with me. In that silence, it occurred to me that even if the front door opened and familiar voices filled the room, it would not mean I was safe. It would only mean that whatever had been watching had decided it was finished for now. I stayed like that until the headlights swept across the windows. The parents returned, their faces pale as they took in the destroyed equipment in my shaking hands. I explained everything. They checked the rooms, the ceilings, the broken cameras. They both were genuinely confused.
The cameras were never connected.
The father finally admitted.
They were decorative, just a warning when strangers came to the house.
There's only one camera that ever actually worked, the mother added. But it's an old school camera that isn't connected to Wi-Fi. You can only access it in the study. We barely ever used it. I followed them to the study. On the screen were the words "no signal," since the camera had been broken. It was empty except for a sticky note, bright yellow against the dark wood.
We will meet again.
None of us had an explanation. I left shortly after, my hands still shaking. Days later, a voicemail appeared. It said a single phrase.
See you soon.
I do not answer unknown numbers anymore. I do not check the windows at night. I do not turn on lamps to light up the darkness. But sometimes, when I hear a quiet step in the hall, I remember the calm, creepy voice, and I wonder if he's already here. Thank you for watching. This video took me forever to write, but I'm actually happy with how the ending tied it together. This story was inspired by baby monitors that can get hacked by strangers online. So goodbye for now, not forever.